Hello and welcome to the vlog that's going to keep me accountable this year. In this video here, I laid out 12 books that I want to read in 2025, that I have to read because I'm the most excited about them, or they've been on my list for just forever and ever and ever, and I just want to read them. I just want to get them off my list. So I'm going to vlog all the books that I read for that list. I don't know how long this is going to take me. It could take me all year. It could take me a month. I don't know how I'm going to prioritise this. I am not going to pressure myself. I want to enjoy these books. So I'm just reading them as I feel like I'm going to be in the mood for them. And I have already picked up my first one. I have picked up Hobbity Dick by K.M. Briggs. Look at that. That's him. That's Hobbity Dick right down there in the little weird hairy man. And there's more little weird hairy people on the back. This is from I'm losing my balance. This is from 1955. It is about a hobgoblin who lives in this house, and a new family moves into the house, a puritanical family moves into the house. And it's about his observations about them and how he picks favourites and shows his favouritism and how he causes mischief. And that's about as far as I've got. I believe it's a children's book, but because it was written in the 50s and it's set in 1652, I think, or 1562, I don't remember. It reads like an adult book to me, but like just a chiller adult book, because I think children's books in those days and children's books in these days are very, very different in terms of their writing style. I was a bit worried I was going to struggle with this because it's dense. It's real dense. But it's good. It's been a really relaxing read so far. I think I'm about 6 chapters in. The best thing about this book so far is that it's got an actual library card in it. And the last date in it is the 2nd of January, 1997. I would have been 1.5. I think that math's right. I'm enjoying this so far. I picked this book because I was excited that it was about a goblin and it was a little bit old. And so I wanted to see what the portrayal of like hobgoblins and goblins was like in this era. So far I'm enjoying it. I will catch up to you once I've read this, plus, I don't know, more. I'll catch up with you when I finish a book or more, because that's how I do vlogs. But I'm really enjoying it so far. He's a really endearing, lovable character, and I can smell a 5-star coming along. Hello, I have finished Hobbity Dick. I would hold it up, but I already gave it back to the library because I had another one to pick up. I really enjoyed Hobbity Dick, which is just a batshit title and name for a goblin. We follow Hobbity Dick, a hobgoblin who is haunting Widford House. It's about the juxtaposition between the very puritanical attitudes of like the master and mistress of the house and the what's the word? The almost like pagan folklorist, like superstitious views that the stable master and some of the maids and the other servants have, all the while viewed through the eyes of Hobbity Dick and the mischief that he gets up to. And he picks favourites among the families, so he'll sort of pinch some people and finish other people's sewing for them, or he'll do the cooking, or he'll clean up the plates, and he'll like help around the house to make those that he likes look better, or he'll muck up everything for the people that he doesn't like. It is very relaxed. It is very enjoyable to read. It is not particularly tense. It almost has like three acts in my head. We have a very long first act, which is Hobbity Dick getting to know this new family, and this new family settling in and working out what they're doing and how they're going to live and act in this new house that they've got, because they're new to the countryside. Then we have a bit of a scary middle act where, I won't spoil it, but we meet other creatures, other fair folk basically around the countryside because of some choice decisions by some of the family members. And then there's a third act which is completely different again, where we talk about which sort of revolves around relationships between members of the household, and there is some very small foreshadowing about this third act in the beginning that I would have completely missed if it hadn't been brought up again. And I won't spoil what it is, but it was really, I just really enjoyed it. It was really relaxed. It was really enjoyable to read. I really enjoy the depictions of the fair folk. The idea that like each county or each like different location has its own particular kind of fair folk that haunts it or lives there or looks after it. And they each have their own like territories within the human world. I really enjoyed that. I thought Hobbity-Dick was a brilliant character. He was exactly what I wanted out of a hobgoblin. He was as mischievous as he should be. He was the right balance of like chaotic neutral, I think, is how it works out in my head. If it had not been shelved in the children's section in the library, I would not have known this was a children's book. But I think that has a lot to do with the differences in children's books back in 1955 and children's books now, 70 years later, because, 70 years later. Because this is a children's book in the same way that The Hobbit is a children's book. Like, to me, that's just a, like, slightly laid-back adventure story. It was written for children. It was sold as a children's book when it was first published. So I think maybe in our times it might be better considered as like a YA book, because I think it does read a bit older. It certainly uses older language, and I think there's a bit of a disconnect there between what is defined as a children's book and what is not. I don't know, that's something I'd like to explore more. I think understanding the differences between what is considered age appropriate in various times throughout history. I don't know if that made sense, but yes, first book in this 12 to read in 25 blog, I'll win. Definitely. Don't know what I'm going to pick up next. I think I'm leaning towards the Reformatory, but I only have an ebook of that, and I don't think I'm in the mood for an ebook at the moment. So we'll see. You'll find out soon what my next book is going to be in this vlog. Would recommend picking this up if it's available at your library. It's a solid read. I really enjoyed it. There is a chance I was wearing this exact outfit in the clip you've just seen. I promise I wear different clothes. I just really like this jumper. Okay? I just really like this jumper. I've read 2 more books of my 12 to read in 2025. I'm not actively rushing through this. I think because I've got a list, I'm just more excited to read them, so I'm prioritising them. So here we go. Let's talk about Starter Villain first, shall we? I was disappointed by Starter Villain, and that makes me sad, because John Scalzi so far has been like a fairly solid writer when it comes to writing enjoyable books for me. The main problem I had with it was the pacing. The first 2/3 of this relatively short book were, oh my god, what's happening? My life is shit. I don't understand what's going on. Let's let these other characters lore dump on me, basically, and tell me all the reasons that I'm stupid and don't know things and why I've been kept in the dark. Then there was like a 1/6 of, here is an event that was suitably foreshadowed and is occurring and was really quite predictable into what was happening. And suddenly our main character has a spine. And then the last 1/6 was just a whole load of batshit nonsense that I was expecting the book to be, which that's not the ratios that I was hoping for from this book. There was just a lot of the main character being dumb and everyone else having to explain things to him. And that's really boring to read. I really enjoyed some aspects. I enjoyed the fact that there were talking cats and there were talking dolphins. I enjoyed some aspects of the villainous life. I was expecting it to go more down the Long Live Evil route rather than help, I've been dropped into a James Bond film. I also think I would have enjoyed this more if I'd actually seen or enjoyed any James Bond films / books, but I haven't, so I didn't. This is not really my genre, I think, of fantasy. I don't really care about James Bond and supervillains and things like that. It's not the flavour of villain that I enjoy. Give me Ursula, give me like Grendel, give me Jenny Greenteeth. Don't care about a man sitting in a chair stroking a cat. Not my thing. So slightly disappointing on that front. I think I gave it like bang in the middle, 5 out of 10, so 2.5 stars. I'll continue to read John Scalzi. This particular one just wasn't for me. Then I read The Reformatory by Tananarive Due, which is just a hairpin bend of a turnaround. I think I hyped this one up too much. I have heard this listed on lots and lots of people's like best books of the year, like favourite books. You should read this. It's such an important, like, fantastic book. It is important. It covers a really important topic that doesn't get talked about enough. It highlights the racism and what it was like to live in the Jim Crow era in the South, around Gracetown, not Graceland, that's different, Gracetown. And I think the way that it shone light on the ways of life and the culture and the not necessarily morally grey, but the flexible morals of some people, where like in Chicago some things were frowned at and not okay, but you go a couple of miles out into the countryside and suddenly you can lynch people without anyone batting an eye, or set fire to an entire part of town without anyone batting an eye. Obviously trigger warnings was like so much, bucket loads of racism, child abuse, sexual abuse, paranormal activity, for want of a better phrase, killing, animal abuse committed by animals as well. So like there's some big trigger warnings in there. But everyone had also, from what I'd heard, this had been bigged up as like the nastiest book, the most horrible thing, the worst things ever are going to happen in this reformatory. And that was underwhelming. I was expecting a lot worse to happen while Robbie was at the reformatory, because this is the story of a young black child who is sent to the reformatory for a very, very tiny offence, and the quest to get him out of there, essentially. I thought the character work was fantastic. I thought the writing was fantastic. It was a well-crafted plot. As much as I didn't necessarily feel intrigued all the time, and I predicted quite a lot of things that were going to happen, which I don't always do. I don't look for things like that. I did want to keep reading. Like, it was a book I actively wanted to keep going back to. I absolutely read more of Tanana Reeve's books. I really like the way that she writes. I like the way that she pulled from her own history as well. There's an author's note at the back that I found really interesting. But I think I had preconceived notions going in of how horrific this was going to be. And it was nowhere near that horrific. So it felt a little underwhelming. I might also be biased because I've just marathoned Special Victims Unit for about 6 months, just constantly. So I've seen a lot of nasty shit on there, and maybe I'm desensitized a little bit. I'm not saying what happened in the reformatory wasn't horrific. It was. I think I've just been consuming media that have dealt with a lot worse recently. That's kind of where I'm at with that book. I would absolutely recommend it if you're okay with some of the trigger warnings. It is a really, really good book. It was a solid 4 stars for me. I think one thing she did really well was that you didn't have good characters and bad characters. Everyone was a little bit grey and wishy-washy, and there was definitely a spectrum of who believed what, and you would think that person is good because they're black and therefore must be on the side of our black protagonist, but not necessarily. You've got morals and boundaries that mean you're not actually going to stick your neck out when you should, things like that. So the characters were very human. I think that's what I'm trying to say. They felt very realistic. They felt very human. They weren't stereotypes or tropes of themselves. And it was very easy to believe that these were real people, which they weren't, but it felt like they were. Yeah, would recommend, but be prepared. Also, this is listed as horror. It's not horror. It's not scary enough to be horror. That's horrific things happen, but I feel like horror has to be scary. For me, this is just this is tragic historical fiction with a supernatural string through it. Personally, that's what I feel. Hello, I've read 2 more books on my list. Well, I've read one and I DNF'd the other. The DNF was A Starless Sea. I thought the writing might be an issue because I've heard lots of people describe it as very flowery and very lyrical and very poetic, which is fantastic for some people and not for me. And that was the problem. The writing really got me. We were jumping around a lot. There was a lot of symbolism right from the start, but I just couldn't get myself involved enough in the story. And it's a chunky book. It's a really chunky book, and I wasn't having it. I didn't love the way that it was set out. I didn't love what we were doing. I wasn't particularly interested in what we were doing. So I DNF'd it because life's too short. However, I did finish Le Fay by Sophie Keach, which was bloody fantastic. Not quite a 5-star because we went towards a trope that I absolutely loathed towards the end. No spoilers. Some people love that trope. I personally would like it to die. I would like to stick it in a blender and smash that button to turn it on. Apart from that, it was fantastic. And that's considering there's quite a large romance plotline in these stories. just by nature of it being like a historical retelling. But it was fantastic. Morgan is really finding her feet. She is finding her power. She is finding her strength. She is standing up to people. She is not taking any shit. Guinevere is a simpering little cow, is all I will say. I don't think I can say anything else without spoiling the series. For those who aren't familiar, Le Fay is the second book in the trilogy that starts with Morgan Is My Name by Sophie Keach. It is a retelling of Morgan Le Fay from her perspective, centering her, centering women, centering like the feminist-ish, as much as you can get in those periods, side of her story. And it is very enjoyable to read. And they just keep getting better. I think Morgan Is My Name was a 3-star. Le Fay was a 4.25. And I'm really hoping the last one will be 5. We're really ramping up the like vengeful bitch character of Morgan, and that is fantastic. And I'm enjoying it so much. And I hate the people she hates so much. There is such good character work in these stories, and the writing feels authentic to the period without being dense and hard to comprehend. It's so easy to read. It's so easy to fall in love with some characters. It's just fantastic, and it's bringing in all my favourite elements of Arthurian legends, and I think this series might just be written for me. So that's nice. It's nice to have some wins sometimes. Don't know what I'm going to read next. I'll check in with you in a second. Okay, I have read 2 more books from my list. Look at me go. Let's start with the short one. I read The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. This didn't take me very long because it's not a very long book. I don't know that I know how to feel about this book. It started and then something happened and then it was over. It was very quick. It was absolutely disgusting. Lots of body horror, lots of gore. Kind of what I was expecting. I knew it was horror when I went in, just didn't know what kind of horror. It was a brilliant depiction of mermaids because our main character, who I don't think ever gets a name, was absolutely feral, and I wholeheartedly approve. The cover on my copy looked like this, and this is exactly just what she was. She just kept eating shit she probably shouldn't have eaten, which I found really funny, but it also drove the plot along. It was weirdly romantic as well, which I wasn't expecting, but didn't hate. Like, I could understand the romance, even though it was a very small novella. Like, that setup was believable. Essentially, this novella is about us. I want to call her a siren, because in my head, sirens are more dangerous than mermaids, and essentially the same thing. But I know that's not true, because sirens are technically bird people, I think. I need to check my mythology. Our mermaid is essentially stolen from this kingdom, from the ocean, by this dickhead of a king, and a plague doctor rescues her. I won't give you any more spoilers or details than that, but she is now with this plague doctor escaping this kingdom, and they run into a hunt in the woods, and the hunt is made up of boys, and they are hunting this other boy who they are calling the pig. And things get really gross from there. It gave me really solid, like, Witcher vibes. It very much felt like those 3 witches in the woods combined with the butcher from Baldur's Gate in I want to call them the Shadowlands. I've forgotten what they're called. Act 2. Fucking hated Act 2. Yeah, like the witches combined with the butcher. That is the vibe of The Salt Grows Heavy. So I gave it a very like mid rating, something like a 3.5, I think, because it didn't blow me away, but it also wasn't bad. I quite enjoyed it, but I also wasn't entirely sure what I was reading, and I felt like it it could have been about 20 pages shorter. Maybe. It's only like a 100-page book. Yeah, I don't think I feel very strongly about it either way. It was disgusting though, so please do look up trigger warnings. If you've got a thing about eyes, do not read this book. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Then I finally read To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Black Goose. This knew what it wanted to be, 100%. We follow Anarchus, who is one of the native peoples living on an island outside of a country that has been colonised by what is essentially the English and the Russians, but they are called fantasy names. And she discovers a dragon egg, and the dragon egg hatches, and the baby dragon chooses her as her rider. So she becomes Nempesha, which just means of the dragon, I believe. But because of the society that she lives in, she has to go and register this dragon, and she decides that she wants to go to this dragon school to learn how to control her dragon's breath, because her dragon's breath can do a lot of damage, and if the dragon is upset or angry, it's gonna do a lot of damage. So she doesn't want to hurt her village. So she goes to the school and she is there to learn. And my God, the xenophobia was just like caked on with a fucking shovel in this book. It was a direct reflection of what it must have felt like when the English and white people colonized America. There was a lot of xenophobia. There was outright racism. There was blinding ignorance around every bend, and a constant theme of, well, we're the civilized people, you're just uncivilized because you live in villages on an island and you must like be so poor all the time and you can't possibly be civilized. We're helping you by giving you this education and you should be thankful and grateful. But the best thing about this book is that Anarchus has a flat character arc. So she knows who she is at the start of the book and she knows who she is at the end of the book, and she doesn't let anyone tell her otherwise. She insists on them calling her Anarchus rather than I've forgotten her last name, but they call her by her last name. They call her Miss, I think it's Upanaqua's daughter, but essentially her father's name's daughter is what they do as her last name. But that's not how her people do names and refer to people. So like her name is Anarchus and that's it. That's her name. So she insists on people calling her by her name. She makes friends with the outcasts in the group. There's a real found family aspect that's done really well. There's fantastic autism representation in this book. There's discussion of other races as well and how they are oppressed and treated in this world. Cat, if you knock that over, I will be pissed off. Yeah, the cat is here. Hello. There could have been more dragons in this, because yes, Kasakwa, Anarchus's dragon, is around all the time, but she doesn't really have an active part. She's just kind of there in the background. And they learn a lot about how to look after dragons and air lore and folklore and history and skiltercraft, which is the craft of being able to shape your dragon's breath into whatever you need it to be. So in this world, they use it for like engineering. It's a lot of science and, oh my God, what's the word? Organic chemistry, essentially, is what it is, but with fantasy magic terms. I would have found it a lot easier if they had just used real terms, because as soon as they said something and described it, I knew exactly what they were talking about. We already have a word for that in English. Like they had a different word for the theory of a scientific experiment, which just felt unnecessary. We also spent a lot of time being lore dumped in her classes. So when she started going to classes at this school, we would just get the whole teacher's lecture on page, and that felt unnecessary. I think there could have been a better way of giving us that information that wasn't just literally the world's most boring professor telling it to us. I would have liked Anarchus to find some of that out for herself, I think. Yeah, that was my main drawback, is that it didn't need to be as long as it was. There was very lore dumpy bits, but overall I thought it was a really good magic school book. If you're looking for a magic school book to replace the series that shall not be named, this would be a great place to start. Anarchus is 15 in the story. To her, she's considered a woman. It is an adult book. Hello. Do you want attention? Yeah. Or do you want to go now? Yeah, you want to go? Thank you. But I think for maybe more advanced YA readers could appreciate this as well, and I think they get a lot out of it. So this was a 4.5 for me. Like the lore dumping and the length really was the only thing that brought that rating down. Otherwise, I think it's a fantastic book. And I'm glad I finally got to read it. It's also a standalone. My last qualm with that book. If you listen to the audiobook, the narrator cannot do English accents. I don't know what it is. It was really jarring because most of the cast of characters do have these English accents. At least I'm assuming they were supposed to be English accents. Because they were fantasy, it was a fantasy world. I think a lot of it was pulled from, like, they were supposed to be English and, like, Nordic, because they used a system of ruling that had jarls, like a la Skyrim. So I think some of it was supposed to be Nordic. So I don't know if they were actively trying to do an accent that was like a combination of English and Nordic, but it just sounded like an American who couldn't do an English accent, which was really jarring because most of the cast had that accent. It was, in particular, it was the O sounds. I think O sounds are quite difficult to nail if you are not British and brought up that way. That seems to be where it falls flat. But it was just really jarring because it did sound like someone was doing a like satirical accent. It was bad. But yeah, apart from that, really good. Maybe just stick to the physical if you're touchy about accents. So it's been like a month since I finished Green Teeth. And everything looks a little bit different for reasons that I'm hoping you will already know about. So I'm going to see how much I can remember to tell you about it, because Green Teeth was one of my most anticipated books of the year. That's why it was on this list. I didn't think there was going to be a more perfect book for me this year. Told from the point of view of a monster, Jenny Green Teeth, who is a mythological river creature in England or Great Britain, not entirely sure. So a monster, also hag, so technically in the witch sort of category, but also swamp monster. And like, swamp monster is my favourite breed of monster, I guess. And I mean, if you're going to talk about a monster, swamp goblin is swamp goblin. Yeah, maybe she's a swamp goblin. So Green Teeth is told from the point of view of Jenny Green Teeth, who is one of many Green Teeth swamp hag situations that live across the UK. We are set in the UK. This is very UK centric. There is a goblin involved who is also a peddler. There is a witch involved. There is the wild hunt involved. You have your typical like fairy tale trope of 3 tasks that you have to achieve. There was nothing about this book that could have gone wrong on paper, but it just didn't hit. It just didn't hit. I was intrigued when I started out because the way that Jenny is written, she is surprisingly charming and almost well-spoken or considerate, which is not necessarily the angle you might go for when writing from the point of view of a swamp hag. But I was intrigued. I thought the initial meet cute, for want of a better word, it's not a romance. There is no romance in here. Again, another bonus that should have made this an incredible book, and it just fell flat. The meet cute was good. I didn't know about the goblin until I started reading it. That was a lovely surprise. He was also snarky, and you know what? He was a good, solid goblin. You get 10 out of 10 for goblins in this book. Everything was there. Everything should have been great, and it wasn't. It wasn't bad. We go all over the UK in this story. We follow the wild hunt. There is an animal companion. There are Herculean tasks. Like, there is... Everything should have been good. I'm repeating myself. What wasn't there was the motivation behind this. I didn't feel a strong enough urge or an understanding, maybe, of why these creatures were going on this quest. Why were they putting themselves in so much danger? Why were they risking so much for, like, one small thing? Really? Like, it was small. I wanted more of a demonstration, I think, of why the bad character was bad and needed these characters, excuse me, and needed these characters to go to such lengths to stop it. And that really didn't hit. I wasn't scared enough of the antagonist. I couldn't find the motivation. There was something missing just the entire way through. So everything else fell flat. It was like the tent poles had been taken out of the tent and you were just sort of doing this, trying to wiggle your way under a flat tent. That's an interesting analogy that I don't think I'm ever going to use again. You see my point. Unbearably mid. Not bad. I'm sure some people will love this. If you like T. Kingfisher, I would give it a go. It's the same kind of like quirky vibes. And hello. And like dry, sarcastic humour. The cat wants me to throw the toy for her. You gotta give me 2 minutes. Yeah, you have. Sorry. So if you're into that sort of thing the same way I am into that sort of thing, maybe you will like it. But for me, it just fell flat. it just fell flat and it was really disappointing. Boo, hiss, on to the next one. Hi gang. I had the perfect filming spot, and then I got another sofa and I put it exactly where I would stand for that filming spot. So I'm just sort of, I don't know, we're here now. I'm here to finish off this vlog because I have DNF'd the last 3 books on this list, so let's run through them real fast. Miss Percy's Pocket Guide was something. It was something. I got about a third of the way through before I decided I just didn't care. If I said it was more focused on portraying the Regency-ish era that it... Oh my god, I'm gonna kill a cat. Madam's being a pain in my ass. So it is about Mildred, who lives with her arsehole of a younger sister who is married. Mildred is a spinster, and Mildred receives an inheritance from a long-lost great uncle in the form of a trunk, which has some books and some rocks in it. And one of the rocks turns out to be a dragon egg, basically, is the premise to that story. I was really hoping we were going to go into more detail about the dragon egg and the biology of how dragons work in this world, because in every other aspect, it just seems like a regular world. But we didn't. We were focusing very heavily on the social politics and the day-to-day life, which I wasn't really quite as interested in. I wasn't particularly invested in the main character or any of the characters, really. Mildred doesn't have a lot of backbone. I could see the romance coming from a mile off, and I really wasn't that interested in it. And there was no one I could like latch onto. So once we got to the bit where the dragon hatched, there just wasn't enough of the dragon after that. So I didn't feel the need to finish it, which was a shame because I was kind of hoping for something along the lines of A Natural History of Dragons. Oh, okay. And it wasn't. And that's a shame, really. I think if you prefer reading about that kind of era and that is like your jam, you will probably enjoy this book a lot more than I did. But for me personally, I wanted more dragons and there wasn't enough. There just wasn't enough dragon in here for me. So that was a DNF. Then I picked up Dungeon Crawler Carl, which lots of people love, and I can absolutely see why lots of people love it. I didn't love it. We follow Carl, who has stepped outside to rescue his girlfriend's cat. And he has stepped out and he's put on her pink Crocs and a leather jacket over his pants. And then suddenly all the buildings flatten or fall into the earth. I wasn't quite sure on that bit. And there's this big broadcast message saying, lol, there's a dungeon in the earth now. Get through it if you want to survive. Or something like that. The idea being that he now has to crawl through this 18 level dungeon to survive what I think was an alien invasion. Maybe? I didn't super understand that part. I love D&D. I love dungeon crawler games. I play a lot of RPGs. This should have been up my street, but it really wasn't working for me. They even had a cat in it called Princess Donut, and that should have done it for me, but I just really, really wasn't feeling it. It felt a little bit, I think, like it was written for people who don't play those sorts of games very often and so needed a bit more context to it, but also at the same time like it was nodding too hard to the people that had played them. And I don't think that's how I like to consume that kind of media. If we're doing a dungeon crawler, I want to be playing D&D or I want to be playing a video game. Like, I want to be in the hot seat. I don't particularly want to hear about other people going through that, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that didn't work for me. It would definitely work for other people if you're into RPGs of any kind. I think this might work for you. I think it's a good book to pick up. Just not for me personally. Yeah, which is a shame. And then finally, we have Helm of Midnight, which was something I was really looking forward to because it's like a heisty museum kind of book. I read the first 4 pages about 3 times and I could not get into it. There was so much world building dumped on the first couple of pages that I didn't like. And there was one particular line about our main character having this like reverb bead in her mouth to kind of act like a communication device, so other people could hear what she said if she had this reverb bead in her mouth. And there was a line about her hooking it into her mouth with her tongue so that she could talk to it. And the mental image that gave me the ick so hard. I had to put the book down. So I tried to read it again at a later date, and it hit me again. I didn't like it. That's such a petty reason to put a book down, especially one that I think I paid. No, I didn't pay full price. I did have to buy it secondhand to get hold of it. But I did. I DNF'd it because of that one line. I just couldn't get into it. I didn't care. It was a little too like sci-fi fantasy for me, which was not really what I wanted out of it. And yeah, didn't work for me. Okay, thank you. We're chewing on fingers now. Chomp, chomp, chomp. But that was it. That was my 12 to read in 2025. And like the autistic nerd that I am, that's now done in the first third of the year. Have you read any of these books? Oh my God, you look insane. Have you read any of these books? Are you looking forward to any of these books? Do you feel the same way about any of these books? There's a real mixed bag of like successes and disappointments. Thank you. Which I think is to be expected, like just statistically. And I'm not super surprised that all the DNFs were at the end, because I think subconsciously I was like putting them off because I wasn't sure if they were going to hit the way that I wanted them to hit. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. That's this year's experiment done. I'm going to go enrich my cat in ways that don't involve my fingers. You look insane. Okay. Yeah. Like and subscribe and all that shit. You know how videos work. Can you see this? What is going on? Whoa, we're even higher now. This is it. I'm not going to say anything else worth listening to. So if you want to stick around for the cat, by all means. But I'm done. Lovely to see you. Thanks. Are you snorting at me? Can I have this back? Can I have it back? No. Okay. Now can I have it back? Haha. It's a baby. Wanna go down?